Shall we have a little moment of retrospection here, Horizontal?
Yes, as it is episode 100.
Yeah. We'll have a little sip of our beverages.
Yeah.
Tasty.
And we're announcing our retirement from. It was a good run, guys.
Nerdy shit. Look how many comics I've not been able to read because of this shit. So the main things that I think it's really kind of key to talk about is just kind of like how we feel the process has gone. Because and actually, it's one that I've not written down. I'm going to put you on the spot for this.
Oh.
When, if ever, because you might not have, because I know I haven't. Not really. Have you kind of sat there like on a Monday or maybe a Thursday, like 2 a.m. on a Friday when you're editing, and you just gone, I'm not sure it's worth it. Can I be asked to do this?
There was definitely, I've definitely had a couple of points where like, and it's probably been on the days where I'm like busy on the Friday and I have had to get like everything sorted out on a Thursday night. And I'm like, it's 4 a.m. and I'm scheduling all the segments and everything. And I'm just like, is this going to last? Like, how long can I do this for?
Yeah.
There's definitely been moments. And I think that's happens with like all content on anything you do. But to the fact that we're at episode 100, most podcasts, like we made a joke back in like episode 7 and episode like most podcasts don't get past the first 10 episodes.
Yeah.
And I feel like I saw what was it on? I saw a clip or something from a podcast, and it was like it was talking sort of about that stat, and also the fact that yes, there's all these thousands of podcasts on Spotify and all this. Only so many of them have passed this many episodes. There's kind of a strange weight to the fact of going, yeah, I have a podcast, and it's one that's been going like, and one that's been running for a while. There's like this strange sense of accomplishment that we've got from hitting like episode 100.
A really weird way to put it in perspective. There will have been someone born after our first episode that is now walking and talking.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
That like just to kind of put that like perspective on it. It's a long ass time.
Yeah.
To like, I think the most common reminder for me for how long we've been doing this is when I'm like thinking about doing a character profile, and I'm like, have I already done this person? Because like when you've got to this many, bearing in mind, I think every episode has a character profile other than maybe like 1 or 2. I'm just there and I'm like, have I done this person before? It's absolute chaos. So a little bit of I guess behind the scenes. So Hori records everything his side.
Yeah.
Then he edits up the full episode and the segments and does the thumbnailing.
Yep, and I schedule.
Yeah. Then he gets the segments as they are cut up, uploaded to Google. I then download them from there and I guess re-edit, cut up to make into shorts, which then get scheduled to coincide. They all get linked in together, and then the shorts that I make at the minute and when I'm on it, which I am at the minute because it's New Year, goes on YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels, and Twitter. Although Twitter's being a dick at the minute.
There's we like the simplest way to explain it, or the simplest way to break down like how we run this podcast is you do the bulk of the topic prep.
Yeah.
I deal with all the long form, you deal with all the short form. And then social media is more you, but I want to try and lend more of a hand this year.
Yeah.
That's like the simplest. And like that's come from over the 100 episodes. Like we've found our workflow of what works and how to make this work.
Part of it at the very beginning when I just had my phone was there was no way for me to help with the long form at all. And we knew we wanted to do short form. So I was like, that's what I can do. I will do it. And I actually, do you not remember, I had an oldish phone at the time and I basically burnt that motherfucker out because I went from not using it that much to editing it all on my phone, and it was like overheating.
I used to have to chop the videos up more so that your phone could handle chopping down the clips.
Yeah, it was ropes out there for a minute. When I
It
look back at like how easy it is now, because like honestly, that's come from like repetition, and we know what we're doing, and we're quick with it.
mm,
I'm like, I'm not even sure right now if I'd have the mental fortitude, because right at the very beginning as well, we were doing like 2, 3, 4 shorts a day,
oh
and I
yeah,
was doing all
well,
that on my phone.
yeah, at first we were. That's the wild thing as well. Like when you look back at the stats of like we've done 3,000 odd videos, a bulk of that came from back when we started. It was the period of like short form where you upload mass amounts a day,
Yeah,
and that's what worked. So we lent into that with like splitting our segments up into parts. Whether you want to argue if that's good content or not, it helped kickstart things. And
that I think at the very peak we were doing
5 a day.
no, we were up
Oh.
at 9 a day at one point. 63 shorts a week at one point we were throwing out
That,
there.
yeah, that's wild.
Scheduled every like 2 hours or something, with a break from like midnight to 6 a.m.
It's
It was
And that, like, the balance of you doing short form came from you were willing to like put yourself through that. I would not have had the patience
no,
to deal with that short form. But then
uh,
also you didn't know how to like you hadn't done editing, so to deal with the long form just wasn't in your capacity
no.
either. So that's why I took that on.
Yeah.
But it's
And
kind of
like it
worked.
came at a price. I was so burnt out on editing by the time I got my PC. If like you go back and look, there was no shorts uploaded once I got my PC for like 2 months, because
Mm,
I had to relearn how to use a whole new editing software, and like shorts were starting to transition away from just throw shit at the wall into more like you have to think about what you're
yeah,
uploading. So then shorts have actually been like the biggest thing we've kind of
shifted
chopped and
around.
changed how we do. We've
Yeah,
tried 2 a day, 3 a day, 4 a day. I think we're currently in the best state our shorts have ever been,
yeah.
where I go through the segment, I find something that will grab your ear and your attention.
Hmm.
And like sometimes people will notice it. I'll say something right in a really much more energetic way. Because in my head I'm like, this will be a brilliant soundbite, and I'm like, and that cuts out,
But
goes up. It's what gets uploaded. And YouTube adding the whole allowing you to link a short to a video
yeah, that's been
has helped so
huge.
much in that respect.
Oh yeah, like we got this segment. Like I think you said it was episode 7. We started doing the segments.
Episode 13,
Or was it 13?
I
And
believe. Let
like
me just double check that.
we got the segments going pretty early on because we knew.
Episode 7, you were right.
Okay, we knew that like a solid long form upload a day. Also made
Yeah.
like gave us set topics. We knew what to stick to. It worked great.
Yeah.
Um.
And like our segments as a general rule do better than the full episode, because they're the
Well,
titles
yeah,
and the thumbnails are more specific. They get their target audience easier.
yeah, and we got the formula down. It was then just kind of adjusting it, like you say, with shorts more so because shorts was so like in 2 years of shorts, TikTok, the space on TikTok has changed a lot. YouTube
Hmm.
shorts came around and like completely shifted things. So that area is always moving, whereas like YouTube long form is kind of like a pretty set formula of what you should do in a
Exactly.
way.
And any changes that do happen to YouTube long form
Mm,
happen slower because of how much more grandfathered in the
mm,
top YouTubes are. They've been around for so long that anything that looks like it might be working, it takes longer for them to try it.
yeah.
Um, so it's just the way it
It's
works.
wild though that our first shots were audio with a montage of random pictures,
Yeah,
and then now obviously,
I that's what like melted my phone. Like me googling and searching to try and download photos to my phone so that I could put them in, and then like it was just absolute chaos. At one point, I'd try and make the because we were doing a lot of super showdowns were what we ended up turning
mm,
into shorts. What I was doing was I was trying to make as generic as possible a video montage, so
uh-huh,
that I could put the different audio with the same montage to try and save time,
time, yeah,
because trying to find all these unique different pictures about the same topic for 10 minutes of talking about two characters fighting, trying to find unique pictures of each of the characters or the characters interacting is rough
mm,
without having just a static image on screen for so long.
yep.
Um,
As someone who has edited short form content for people who want that, like, oh, I have this clip. Can you also like just edit in like contextual imagery and video? And it's like that shit takes time. And when
yeah,
we were trying to produce like 6 to 9 day, like, that's a lot to ask of someone who is also working at a full-time job.
Yeah, a full-time job where I was trying to learn lots of new things because it was an industry I hadn't worked in before. And yeah,
Mhm.
it was a in a lot, but it's one of these things that it's funny because like every kind of 10-ish episodes, we'll sit down, we'll look at how we've done recently, and we're like, right, what do we think might work? What do we want to change up?
Mm.
And then it's kind of like this perpetual kind of time sink cycle where like
Yeah.
we'll decide, okay, I'm going to do shorts this way. So I start doing that, and I have to learn how to do that. Not like
Mm.
learn, but I'll have to refine my process for that. So the first night I'll do it, I'll get home at like 5, and I'll be editing until midnight, and I'll get all that done, uploaded, sorted.
Yeah.
And then after doing that for 6 weeks, I'm doing it as fast as I was doing the way before, but we're seeing better results. So it's
Mm.
kind of like I get back to this point of like right now, like all my shorts and stuff I'm doing normally before we have dinner at like 7 when I get in at 5. I'm
Mhm.
like done. Um, but eventually shorts will change or whatever, or I'll want to try something new, and I'll
Yeah.
have to
Spend
re
longer. Yeah.
yeah, and then it'll be 5-6 hours editing again. Then I'll bring that back down by getting more efficient with it. Um, I kind of did a little rough calculation. It's so difficult because it also depends on how much content we're covering.
Mhm.
But as a general rule for most episodes, there was about 2 hours of content we needed to watch.
Yeah.
So just going into that, you got 2 hours of watching the content.
Yeah.
There's about half an hour to write a character profile. About
Mm.
half an hour to grab the news is another hour. So that's about
Mhm.
3 hours. Then you've got recording, which is normally about 2 hours. Once you include like the bit we do before and the bit we do after.
Yep.
That's up to 5 hours. Editing's another between 2 and 5 hours. I'll say 3. That's 8 hours just to get everything out every week on top of a full-time job. And also we're both trying to do our own individual content, which is
Mhm.
about the same amount of time, and trying to also have any kind of a social life. And it's just all of a sudden it's a lot, and it's all prioritization. I mean, there's no
Well, yeah.
reason that we couldn't just go, we don't want to do this anymore, it's not worth it. But at the
Mm.
end of the day, like, I've had real shit days at work where I'm like, as I'm coming home from work, I'm like, I've got to fucking record tonight and I don't want to. But then
Mm.
after I get in, I eat and I sit down and I'm like, okay, no, this is good. It's cathartic.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something about, like, on some days I'm like, "Oh, it's right, it's recording day, I gotta do all this." But then it's like, after I've gone through it all and everything's scheduled, I'm like, "Yeah, that was just another week." Like, there was
Yeah.
something about making sure to every Thursday, it was like, with unless we were ill or something was going on those
Yeah.
7 weeks that we missed, like, it became a habit and more of a discipline rather than this, like, being motivated, which I
Yeah.
think is what helped get past those odd days where it's like, "Oh, is this worth it?" Um, but I mean, editing on my side, I like you definitely put in more hours than I do on it, but I feel like I am always up so late. There's some depending what I've got going on,
Do
the
you
long
work
forms
on short
change.
time frames?
Yes, that's the
Because
thing.
in reality, with the shorts, if I wanted to, now that we're just doing one short a day, which is by far better anyway, just for like
Yeah, you
content,
could
but
spread it
also
out.
it's less for me to do. I could, in theory, get in on a Friday, do the shorts for Saturday and Sunday, and then
Mm,
just do the day before, do the one for the next day. No, I don't do that because that doesn't work for me, but I could do that. Whereas, like you say, you are like, we finish recording, say, 10 o'clock at night,
yeah.
sometimes later, and then you
Oh,
have
there
to be
was
up
some
to
like
yeah,
s-
you're up to cut them all up, get it edited, get it thumbnailed, get it uploaded. And obviously, like the shorts take 2 seconds to upload because I also have better internet, but also they're so short. The full like 2 hour video is going to take a while to upload. And you have to keep an eye on it in case it fucking crashes out. And we've only had one episode where it like crashed out uploading and you had to re-upload it the next day.
oh yeah, it never processed. YouTube just didn't
Yeah,
process it for some reason. So it
yeah.
went up
YouTube
like
was
an
having a really
hour.
bad day that
It went
day.
up like an
Yeah,
hour late. But and I think there's only been like a couple of times where I've missed a segment upload because there's been a period where it's like most of the time I'll get all 5 segments up done or scheduled and ready to go on the Friday, just so it's done out the way. Don't have to think about it. But by the way, if you're doing content and you have a week's worth of content, just schedule it. Just get it, do it, sit down, do it all in one go. It feels like a lot in the moment, but it is so much better than having to worry about each day being like, oh shit, I need to post it for whatever time. But yeah, like you say, we'd finish around 10 p.m. I have to process the audio, then match that up with the footage. I've got a lot quicker with that. That's like a breeze now. Then it's you render out the full episode. Then I go through and chop it up, render out each segment. Then I also actually render out each segment with the intros so that they can be the YouTube videos. And now we have the little short in like episode release short.
Yeah.
Most of my time is actually spent waiting. So what I do is I bulk queue all the segments for rendering and I hit render all. So I sit there waiting ages for that. And then also uploading a full episode takes time because my internet's not the quickest. Especially when there was those couple of weeks where we were having like we had a 3 hour episode.
That 3 hour episode was a slog.
That YouTube did not enjoy my
No.
internet was not very good for that. But yeah, his quick turnarounds has been, but like you've got quicker with shorts, I got quicker with process of dealing with the full episode.
It's just like literally everything.
Mm,
Practice makes you faster. It makes you do it cleaner. It makes you better.
yeah.
Like even if you just look at like the quality of editing on our shorts, just after I started doing shorts again when I got my PC versus now, they're so much nicer, tidier, cleaner. You just get better at stuff as you do it more.
Yeah.
And like I also think like a big thing has been like our confidence. I feel like just looking back at some of the episodes while I was getting ready to do this, we're a lot more, although we're quite stuttery people anyway, just because our brains move faster than our mouths. We speak for a lot more purpose now, like we know what we're saying, instead of like waiting for the thought to appear as we're opening our mouth.
Oh yeah, we've got into a much better flow with the podcast, and like something as well. You mentioned it in the character profile of like how we started with the idea of this came from like we wanted to, the MCU stuff was going on. We had a channel in our Discord with our mates, and we used to talk about stuff in there. That's kind of where the idea was born from. I knew Star Wars stuff was going to come up, and I was like, I'm going to try and get that in on the podcast. And then obviously Andor is what sort of kicked it off.
Yeah. We're kind of what we're essentially now is a spot where we've gone from just doing Marvel and DC because at the time we thought that was just going to be constant, and we
Yeah.
kind of under-egged that, which left a little bit of space anyway, which is actually a good thing now because of how much space is being left in this year coming.
Well, yeah, and I'm like, looking back, obviously we started this thinking, well, right, we're going to be MCU and DC, and I had in the back of my head, oh, maybe we can start adding Star Wars in, knowing that there was Star Wars content going to be coming. But like, that's kind of what we expected this podcast to be, like just a MCU DC. But like, I'm actually so glad that because of those gaps, we've become not just like a Marvel DC podcast. We are for the most part, a nerdy show and film, like nerd content podcast with like mentions of like other shows and stuff. Like the most recent example I think is The Bear, and then awards. And like we've added in news and talking about more relevant topics like award shows. But then also when we talk about award shows, we keep it focused on our stuff. But like this became more of a podcast about our interests rather than just being a Marvel.
And I've loved Star Wars my entire life, but I was very much I don't want to say casual because I don't do anything casually, and I don't mean that like I'm such a my brain doesn't work that way. If I care about something, I care about it.
Yeah.
But doing this and like having a necessity to watch the Star Wars stuff to make sure I'm ready for the podcast,
yeah,
has brought back my love for it in such an aggressive way.
Well, I mean,
I'm just all in on Star Wars now in a way I've never really been in my entire life. I always enjoyed Star Wars, but now that I'm like having to think about it and look at the context in the greater universe, I'm like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, I was into my Star Wars, and I was like well on it with Mando and stuff when that stuff was coming out, and could see that there was a ramp up of Star Wars content coming. So it's like obviously getting you in on that has been great, and gives me, and it's also like you've got really into Star Wars now. It's, if anything, it's got me more focused on Star Wars than I ever was and enjoying it more. But then I love that we've been able to add in like Rings of Power came along and we were like, screw it, let's just watch this.
Yeah.
And then
If we would have been too rigid, we wouldn't have watched Percy Jackson for the podcast.
no. Well, yeah, this is the thing. I think we added Star Wars because that makes sense. The first thing that was like different was Rings of Power. And I think making that decision to, yeah, we'll watch Rings of Power because we love Lord of the Rings. It's like nerd, like gospel. Why would we not also then dabble into
Yeah,
this realm? And then I think
exactly.
that opened the door to be like, oh, we can talk about whatever shows we want.
Yeah, it's kind of become more of a thing of, do we deem it nerd focused,
Mm,
and are we both going to watch it anyway? Because we were
yeah,
both going to watch Rings of Power anyway.
yeah,
So it's like, fuck it, just watch it when the episode comes out, and we'll discuss it. We may as well. We're doing the prep work for it anyway. We may as well get something directly from it.
yeah,
But I also think, like, and I don't know how to say this without sounding big headed, but my knowledge of superheroes and comic book media and that kind of stuff is superior to yours.
yeah,
And then by having high fantasy and Star Wars stuff, where you have more knowledge than me, it kind of allows us both to exist in our own ecosphere, and it kind of gives us this kind of expert and casual for every
yeah.
topic, which allows, I think, a more balanced conversation. When it comes to comic book stuff that I know that you don't, you can be the casual fan who's finding stuff out. And then when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to Lord of the Rings stuff that I don't know, that you get to explain,
Mm.
I think it
I
allows
think,
us to center around that idea we've had since the beginning of, we want this to be a doorway into any kind of nerd.
well, yeah, it's what this started from in the channel on the Discord was MCU shows out. We'd all watch it at different points, whatever. We'd have questions. Often you would answer said questions. I'd pick up on some stuff that maybe like, oh mate, Luke wouldn't, but then I wouldn't have answers. Like, and then the same started happening with Star Wars, but the flip. So
Yeah,
it just was like what we already were doing, and we realized, well, that just works the same as if we just discuss it rather than doing it in type messages to each other.
exactly.
And then something I think also, like you say about the casual and more expert dynamic, but also you've got, I'm very creative. So obviously when I watch shows, I actually pay a lot more attention to visuals and the artistic side of things, where I would say you pay more attention to like actually how well it's written and put together and
Yeah.
the format of and like the pacing, something which then has caused me to pick up on that stuff more. And I
Oh,
think
I've
we've,
learned so much about stuff I didn't even know just from like, there's this weird kind of thing that, like, I think in the world now, if you say something with confidence, it doesn't matter if you're informed or not. But
just say it
but
confidently and people will believe you.
internally, yeah, internally, I'm also like, okay, I don't want to say something if I'm completely fucking wrong here.
Mm,
So I'm like actively going out to like fact check myself. And like, yeah, I
yeah.
accept that sometimes I'm gonna say stuff that's wrong, and that's fine, as long as when I get made aware of that, I accept that. But at the same time, like, I don't want to be that guy who's just coming on here spewing shit that's
Yeah.
all factually inaccurate. And also, like you said, with you knowing more about art direction and stuff like that, you have the way you point stuff out to me has allowed me when I'm watching stuff to like look at it in a slightly different way.
Mm,
I think I am, as a result of what we've done and the discussions we've had, I think I'm more critical of bad VFX, but I praise good VFX more
mm.
because I've now noticed stuff that I didn't notice before, and I'm like, wow, I know for a fact I wouldn't notice that before, so it's really good.
Well, yeah, that this is like a weird tangent, but that point of like you now pay attention to this and you spot the good stuff. Like VFX artists, when you see them like do interviews or anything, a common thing that's mentioned, I've seen mentioned a lot, is like people will always notice bad VFX. They will not notice good VFX because good VFX should go unnoticed. Like it
Yeah,
should be so seamless that you don't realize.
there's a famous one where it's like the glass in a car. I think it might be one of the Jurassic Park
Mm,
films, and it's like they couldn't have the glass in it. Oh no, it's the first Avatar film. And while I shit on Avatar, I am very complimentary of its
well,
visuals.
yeah, the VFX is
Yeah.
next level.
So in Avatar, he's in the first one, he's in a helicopter, or like their like butterfly
Mm.
helicopter thing, and they couldn't have any glass in it because it would reflect the blue screen.
Yep.
So they had to CGI in all of the glass and the reflections, and you would never have known. It's
Yep.
perfect, and that's what you should be praising once you become aware of it. Obviously, if you don't notice, that shows how good it is.
Hmm.
But then when someone goes, "That was VFX," you should go, "Wow."
Yeah. It's
Um.
it's definitely open. Doing 100 episodes of this has opened me up to more shows as well that I want to
Oh,
watch.
absolutely. You would never have watched The Boys or Invincible. I would never have watched Vox Machina
Oh
or
yeah.
stuff like
Didn't
that. Like,
yeah.
oh, at some point for like a separate video, maybe we should sit down and work out all of the stuff we've talked about, films and TV shows, and do a ranking list of how much fun it was to watch and go through it and all the hype around it. That'd be fun.
Yeah.